So I've been waiting to say this morning, even though there's quite a few. It must be the cold weather that some people stayed away, even having the pastor for the first time. But good morning, McAllen Grace Brethren Church.
Good morning.
I kind of missed that. I thought for a while I was recording my message that I would get you all guys together and put you on speakerphone so you guys can blare it out into. But I am extremely excited to be home. Of course, as you know, I still have a long ways to go with my health, strength gaining, be able to walk again without without getting disoriented or not disoriented. What is it when you get the vertigo type feeling that things aren't right? So I still have a ways to go. Hopefully, physical therapy will take care of that as I start on Monday, hopefully, Lord willing, and so hopefully things will work out. So just continue to pray for me, and so anyway, so I actually had a message planned for this morning, but as you know, as I told him to ignore that and your sermon notes, and we'll do this next week, because what happened yesterday when I woke up disoriented that I was even home, I was like, what is this place? Oh, I am home. But right before I woke up, I heard these three little words: do not fear. And so I had that like in my mind when I woke up from my. I'm not going to say that God was speaking to me, but maybe He was. And so my message for today was supposed to be a do not fear, but I think I'm going to wait till next week, maybe go over a little bit more just to be more familiar with it. But I'm super excited to be here. I will tell you that as strong as a Christian as I am, I was very homesick. Very homesick. I think the thing that bothered me the most was to see people leave, because they could leave, but I couldn't leave. They could visit me, but when it was all over, they just get up and walk away. My wife would come on Thursday, but on Saturday afternoon, she was out the door. And it was so difficult for me to see, especially my wife walking out the door. And it was just very, very difficult for me. Very difficult for me to have nobody to talk to. Pretty much the last 3 weeks, because there was a slight COVID outbreak at the home. Not a big one, but it's a slight one. A few people got positive for COVID. And so I basically just stayed in my room for the last 3 weeks, basically not going out at all except for physical therapy. And so anyway, to say that I was having a blast, I'm not going to say that. I tried going to church twice. First time was okay. It was mainly geared to a unsafe audience, and the pastor did a good job. And I went back a second time, but I didn't feel the spirit there. He kept looking at his watch. He kept trying to figure out how much longer do I have to go, and of course that was I want to say it was before Christmas, and the question was, his heart wasn't in the, and I just felt it, and so he ended the sermon very abruptly, and he almost like somebody asking to visit somebody that wasn't there, and he was like, I could tell in his mind, what a burden. Now I have to go visit this person, and so he quickly left to visit this person. I don't know how long he spent time with him, and I just stayed there talking to this guy who was not even a resident there, but just came to church because he wanted to come to church there. But sometimes, and you got to be very careful with this, that Christians want to speak out rather than listen. And he asked me a question. I don't know what the question was. Started sharing, and next he interrupts me and it hogs up the conversation. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute. You just asked me a question, and now I cannot answer the question because you're too busy talking. I mean, we're getting nowhere. So anyway, next week they didn't. I almost offered my services, but I said no. I better not. Because they had to cancel church because he wasn't going to be there between Christmas and New Year's Eve, but I almost offered my services, and then I thought, well, you know what, I don't want to take his thunder. This is his ministry. I don't want people saying, wow, I really like what Pastor Soto said. I wish we had him here, and then they start praying that I stay there forever. So I said, I'm not. So I had the activity chart, and as I'm leaving, I said, I went there, and goodbye, activity chart that I never followed. Because the only time I followed it was after physical therapy. They said to me, are you going to go to the activity today? It was some kind of Mexican celebration and one of the Mexican independence on the 10,000 ones they have. And they were serving a free Mexican bread with tamales. And I said, wow, I haven't had tamales in a long time. So I went just to have the tamales. And I get a cookie too, of course, a Mexican cookie. But then the activity director says, sir, would you like to have another tamale? He goes, sure. And so I got my 2 tamales, and then I skedoodled out of there, just in time to get back to my floor to see Doretta and Chuck. They were looking for me, but nobody knew where I was. And they were leaving, but I saw them and said, oh, we came to visit you. So they went back into the room, and we had a good talk. I do want to thank Doretta and Chuck. They came, especially Doretta came quite often to visit me, always texting me how I was doing, this and the other. Be in prayer for them because they're actually going on a 6-week tour of the Asian area, Vietnam, Philippines, South Korea, all those places, stuff like that. So anyway, so pray for their health as they get there. As I was there, as I said, it was a really emotional roller coaster because I was there to take the antibiotics. I could have done that at home, but the first time they told me that they wouldn't pay for the antibiotics, and that was like $420 a week, that I would have this out of my own pocket, or I could go to a rehab center and get everything paid for. So of course, it's a no-brainer. That's when I chose the Enclave. Not that I knew that, because it was part of our ministry, Touchstone, which also sponsored the 2 homes we visit here on a weekly basis. But I didn't know that. But I just heard a lot of good things about the Enclave, so I decided to go, and I think they were true. And the first time I chose it for mainly the economy, save money. Plus, I also wanted to be close to my doctors in case there was an issue. And of course, when I heard that I had to go back to be hospitalized, and the discussion was a no-brainer. I said, if I'm going to have a rehab, I didn't want to give Iris that responsibility of putting an IV 3 times a day, and then then maybe doing something wrong and getting a worse infection. So I want to leave it to the professionals, and so, but 7.5 weeks was very long. Just gonna, I didn't count the days. What I did do is I decided, well, every day I'm going to write a small journal, about a paragraph or 2 of my day. So that kind of kept me busy of trying to remember all the things that I did, like when at the hospital where I went on a hunger strike. Only worked for a half meal. Well, they got concerned because I refused to eat the food. And the reason I refused to eat the food was because they gave me, I remember it was chicken Alfredo. So when I got the pan, I opened up, I had the vegetables, I had the pasta, but I had no chicken and I had no Alfredo. Because apparently they saw something I was allergic to. But when you're in a place like that, I mean, again, I was a little more upset this time than I was last time. But not that I was there or because they put me there, but it's just because I had to be there. And it was just because of a simple infection. It wasn't like a big infection. And it wasn't like my leg was rotting over. It was just a little red spot next to the incision. But my doctor saw sufficient concern that he said, well, you want to start? I already started the admission. You can go over there fill up the rest of the paper and come back tomorrow, or you can just stay there. So I said, well, I didn't want to come Iris drag me all the way home to get my stuff. So I was there not prepared. Thank God I always carry, for some strange reason, everywhere I go, I always carry an overnight bag. Just enough clothes to go overnight. And I always carry a menstrual shaving kit, but I forgot the shaving kit. And so Iris had to go buy some clothing for me, which is hard because it is winter time, and all the places I buy my t-shirts from and my shorts from at Walmart, they don't carry them in the winter time because it's wintertime attire, and finding t-shirts, I like them to be baggy, and finding the 4X and the 5X t-shirts to have baggy clothes, and they were nowhere to be found. And this time they lost my laundry, half of my laundry. I lost like 7 pairs of shorts at about $8 a short. You could give you an idea how much that was. And I lost seven t-shirts, or maybe more. Maybe I lost my favorite Power t-shirt, and I don't even know if I usually ordered 2, and I don't know if I ordered. I have 2, but that was it. You know, and I could have been very upset at that, but I felt sorry for even the people doing the laundry, because they just didn't know what to tell me. And finally, we concluded that what happened was the physical therapist took the laundry and she put it in the trash bin, not in the laundry bin. And so they just didn't bother looking. They just threw everything in the trash, all my clothing and stuff. But I even feel sorry for the poor lady, because at one time, out of desperation, she brings this little closet on wheels with tons of laundry, and she's going through all these shorts. I told you they were black or dark blue shorts, and just regular t-shirts. How about this one? Is this one of yours? I go, trust me, there's nothing in there. Nothing's in there. And she could, how about this one? Are these your shorts? I go, those are brown, they're light tan. They're not black or blue. And I really felt sorry for her. So I try to be really nice. So one of the things that I made up my mind was that, once again, I decided that if I was going to be there, that I was going to be the best patient I could have been to anybody, and not get mad, and not get frustrated, and not get angry, because I just saw a very low staff area with very overworked doctors and nurses. You know, sometimes a doctor has to take care of a couple of hundred. I don't know if they're all full or not, but they have 100 rooms to take care of, and then the nurses they just put one head nurse in every section, and every section is a very large section, and I just saw no need of getting upset, because I look at them and they were pretty tired. They look tired. They're worn out. They go home and morning. They go home at 8 o'clock, and then come right back by 10 o'clock, and with no life at all. And I just felt really bad. Felt bad for the physical therapist. So one of the first things that I had to determine to myself, I determined that if I was going to be there for heaven knows how many days, because I didn't know when we started or not started. I remember last week I asked this lady, and in the morning was all, in the daytime it was all the same nurses, but at nighttime they bring in nurses, and most of the nurses were from foreign countries. Sometimes you could understand what they were saying, and so she came back to me on Friday, because Iris was still there, and she said to me, "You still have 45 days to go." But she had an accent. She was from Africa, and it's 45. It was 45. And I honestly, I thought, who can I call? I'm so depressed. I didn't want to wake up Iris and this and that. So I told her, give me a call first thing in the morning. And I said, I hate that be a news of bad news. And they say I have 45 more days here. And that sounded about right, because I had at least 1 more week of this treatment. And the doctor said you might add 4 more weeks. And but what she was telling me was, because she was from Africa, she says you have 4 or 5 more days. But the way she said it, it sounded like 45 more days. And I said, 45 more days? She goes, yes, sir. And I guess she didn't understand my English, and I didn't understand her English. And so I was almost going to go crazy, because I had to say that 45 more days. So I had to stop and I said, God, okay, this is the three things that I said I was going to do while I was here, and I have to apply that to this. And of course, the very first one was the fact that I had to live my faith there. I had to trust God that He knew what was going on. And if 45 more days I had to stay there, then 45 days He was going to have to help me endure. And of course, because a faith factor plays a whole big deal. They say that people of faith survive catastrophic health issues faster and better than people without faith. And so, of course, the first verse that came to my mind was Hebrews chapter 6, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, where it said, without faith, it's impossible to please God. That without faith, it's impossible to please God. Because if you have faith, you need to believe that He exists, number one, and number two, that He's a rewarder of those who faithfully follow Him. And even though I couldn't see the picture as to why I had to be there for 45 more days, but at the very beginning, just a scary thought is that I didn't even know where the 6 weeks treatment started, because they tried different antibiotics to begin with, and then it would change to this treatment. And so I didn't even know when there was an ending to this, And so I had to put my faith in, because it goes back to 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7, which says, so we live by faith and not by sight. And it's not for us to question God, but it's for us to trust God, because He knows in the long run what's best for us. I may not know what it is, but He does. And the other thing that I committed myself to, and which I had done back in August, but more this time, because I felt like this time was a repeat of a long winter nap, was that I had to commit my life. I had to commit my life to prayer. And so I'll tell you right now, if anything intensified while I was there was my prayer life. I mean, because I had so much time. Wake up in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep because of the pain. So what do? Sit there and groan and moan, knowing you can't have another pain pill because they give you one. You got to wait 2 more hours before they can give you another one. And I had to time everything, because I was, I would do without prescription pain pills, and even non-prescription, until I was ready to go to bed. So I would suffer all day long, because the pain pills that they gave me at night, or they gave me, would make me tired, sleepy, and I could go to sleep. So, so I would take this pain pill every night just because I knew it would make me relax. But then I wake up and I couldn't take any more for another 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, because it seems like when you really want time to fly, it doesn't. And I just couldn't help but just go back to what Paul wrote in Colossians chapter 4, verse 2, where it says, devote yourself to prayer and be watchful and thankful. Devote yourself to prayer and be watchful and thankful. That goes the same like what Jesus told the disciples in Luke chapter 11, where they said, Lord, teach us to pray. Teach us to pray. Show us how to pray. They would see him pray, and they were very envious. And God goes, if you can do it, I can do it. Of course, they were not as faithful about the issue of prayer as Jesus was. Could you remember regarding Gethsemane, where all the disciples fell asleep? Because they were supposed to be praying, watching and praying, watching and praying. And so here Paul reminds us in Colossians chapter 4, he said, devote yourself to prayer, be watchful, and be thankful. Be watchful and be thankful. I mean, why does he want us to be watchful? Well, because I could have gotten a rotten attitude being there. One of the nurses, I won't joke around, even though when they wake me up. Soto, are you asleep? Well, I was until you woke me up. Well, you wasn't sure you're okay at 3 o'clock in the morning. You weren't sure I was okay. I mean, people sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, except maybe not me, But or they come to sort of want to eat your blood. He goes, why? He says, well, one lady goes, I didn't have enough for breakfast, so I have to get some extra blood now. And the other funny one happened this week when they came to suck my blood on Friday. And I said, what do you do that for? I'm probably leaving today, but I have to do it every Friday. And she didn't even turn on the lights. I mean, it was a hallway light, very dim, and she's doing this in the dark. And I go, how can you do that in the dark? He goes, oh, I'm kind of used to it. And she jams it with a needle, and you can tell that nothing's happening. And she said to me, I felt the vein. It's in your vein. I don't know why there's no blood coming out. You really? You felt the vein, so it means it didn't go out the other side, and it's in the vein, and you don't know why. Come on, you can't feel the vein. Shh. Okay, I hear it gushing out. Here it goes. I said, you hear it gushing out? I goes, what does my blood gushing out sound like? Goes, it's like an open faucet. A faucet? You're pulling my leg, aren't you? I go, no, it sounds like a faucet. It's like a faucet that's gushing out. And I go, I'm having a blast with this. Then my veins sound like a gushing faucet. And I said to her, walking out, I goes, a gushing faucet, really? And there was another nurse that came in and she said, I said something. She woke me up again and again joking around, and she said, "You know, Mr. Soto," goes, "Yeah, you're just a breath of fresh air when I come here." Yeah, I know what she meant. You know, she's dealing with people that don't want to be there, like me. She's dealing with people who hate to be woken up. She's dealing with people. They're dealing with people that don't want to go to physical therapy, but yet their relatives want to go to physical therapy. And we're dealing with people that want their independence back, but will never get it. So I understand how these people, how the staff feel sometimes. So I did my best to pray for them, and of course pray for you guys. I prayed a lot for you guys, more than ever. And then I had a real long list of people that were experiencing pain. I prayed for Martha every night. Of course, when I prayed for Martha, I said, "You're gonna pray for Simple Rick." No, I prayed for the whole family, and then I said, "You know what? Why don't you pray for every member of the family like that?" So I started going down the list. It was not very long, and pray for every individuals, the families. And so I had to take CJ and Angelica away from Debbie and Mikey and from Chris and Homer and make them a new group. So I prayed for them, and you know, it made that. And a lot of times I was so wiped out and in so much pain. Once that pill took over, I just passed out. And I wake up at 2:30 in the morning and goes, and I would say, "God, did I forget to pray?" And God said, "Yes. You know, God, I'm going to pray for it right now." And I would not I set up and I would not go back to sleep until I finished my prayer list. And I committed quite a large prayer list of people that are hurting, people that more likely would never see a painless day. I prayed for this guy who's so like a pastor from Alaska. But he's in Phoenix, Arizona, because he's got to have major back surgery, but he had to wait for the right time. And so I prayed for him. For Karen Red Hawk, you guys, we prayed for her a lot. You know, she had to have this surgery and she knew it was not going to be easy. And so my prayer list was getting longer and longer and longer and longer. So by the time I finished praying, standing up, I was ready to go back to sleep. And I did. I would go back to sleep. I said, "Okay, God, I finished praying. Can I go back to sleep now?" And God would say yes. And so we saw that that you know the whole concept of committing myself to prayer. But the other thing that I committed myself to doing was to do good to all people. It's like I told you earlier. You know, it's like just being good to people. Being good when in an environment where you don't want to be good. Trying to focus on the good things that are coming around, you know, and not the bad things, you know. But it was like you know, Paul wrote in Galatians chapter in Galatians chapter 6 verses 9 through 10. He says, let us not become weary in doing good, for in proper time you will reap a harvest if you don't give up. And the nicer I talked to people, the nicer they were to me. And some of them didn't want to leave, but they had to leave. And sometimes I would do everything in my power to share something good about God, even just a short testimony, if it's just one sentence, for them to know that I was different, that I wasn't just your typical person here, that I had a spiritual relationship with a God that was far greater than me, and allowed me to go through situations and circumstances. And so I decided that I was going to, as he said in verse 9, Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 goes, let us not become weary in doing good, for in proper season you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. But then in verse 10 he said, therefore, it goes, as you have the opportunity, as the opportunity arises, let us do good to all people. Let us do good to all people. And that meant my staff. That meant my doctors. That meant my nurses. It meant my physical therapist. You're become one of the boys when the physical therapy people says, you don't have to leave. You can stay here if you want to, because there were a bunch of crazy people, and understand why they have to be crazy to survive on this sanity. He says, but therefore you have opportunity to let us do good to all people, but especially to those who belong to the family of believers. So we're commanded to do good to two groups: those that don't know the Lord, with the hope that they will come to Christ, and those that know the Lord, with the opportunity of building up their spirits. And if it wasn't for these three things, I don't think that I would have survived the last 7.5 weeks. Just going back to my promise, not to myself, not to anybody, but to God. I told God, I will be the best patient I can be under the circumstances. And I'll try to have a positive note every single day. And I'll be honest, sometimes it was harder than others. But guess what? I am here. But I am here with fear. Because what if it happens again? What if the infection comes in, I don't see it? What if I get told next week you have to come back and spend 6 more weeks here? There's always that possibility. So I try to take care of myself. And sure enough, the other day we were coming yesterday, Friday, I picked up this bag and I let it go, my craft supply bag, and I got stabbed. You can see a little double line here. It just scratched me, and I'm supposed to get nothing here. And I don't know how they got in there, but there was a pair of surgical scissors. They're sharp as a needle. And when I don't know who put them in there, because I wouldn't have taken them, but there they were. And maybe they were there from another time. I don't think so. And those things just stuck out and scratched my leg. And I said, well, there goes the old promise, you're going to really take care of yourself. But I want to thank you for your prayers. I want to thank my wife, Iris, for putting up with me and going all the way to San Antonio once a week. I pray for her protection all the time. I wish there was another way, but there was just no other way. So, our gracious Father and our God above, we thank you so much for being the good God that you are. Okay, thank you so much for being here today, gracious Father, and an opportunity today just to share my testimony of what you've been doing in my life the last 7.5 weeks, gracious Father. I don't know where most of these people are. A lot of them, I've pointed them to the chaplains that are there, that spend more time there, and able to walk and talk to them about the Lord, gracious Father. So I just pray you be with all those that I had a short impact with the gospel, short impact with a positive message from the scriptures, gracious Father. And gracious Father, thank you so much for your love and grace and mercy, and thank you so much for being home. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.